Dag iedereen, welkom op het Move Film Festival. Heel tof dat jullie even zijn blijven zitten nog na het bekijken van het prachtige Once Upon a Time in Venezuela. Ik heb hier bij mij Anabel Rodríguez Ríos, de regisseuse van de film. Zij praat live met ons via Zoom vanuit Caracas. Anabel, welcome. Your internet connection is not very stable, but I think we will manage through it. How are you?
Hi, hello. Thanks, Seppe, for this conversation, and thanks to the festival, the MOF Festival, for receiving us in this space. I'm fine. Right now I am in Caracas, but normally I do live in Austria, just to tell you more or less how it is. And over the last year with the film, it's been really moved, because since we did open in the world documentary film category in Sundance, it's been a non-stop publication and talk about film in this way, online, but as well sometimes presential. And it has been wonderful to communicate the film, even in pandemic times. I did actually got the corona as well, so okay. I am a survivor.
Maybe just to help people really grasp what we see in the film Once Upon a Time in Venezuela, it would be good if you could explain to us a bit what the current situation is in Venezuelan politics. You know, Hugo Chavez died in 2013, Maduro took over, and what has happened since then?
Since then, there had been a really fall of the whole system in Venezuela. I mean, there are different factors that is really difficult to explain in brief, but mainly the oil prices had gone really down during that time. The whole economy of the country is heavily dependent on oil exports, and the industry in itself have not had the right care over a couple of decades. So that means that the production is really low. And on the other hand, even the production of food depends on imports. So on one hand that, and on the other hand, and this is my opinion, a dreadful management of the country from the political leadership had brought the whole country into a true collapse. I mean, I'm here in my mother's house, everything looks more or less okay, but, and this is in Caracas, but the whole country is suffering from lack of the most basic things, beginning by food. Electricity is normal to have blackouts, and lack of that service, lack of water, lack of drinkable water. I mean, what once was built is truly collapsing. Yeah. And from the institutional point of view, well, the institutions are not managing really to respond in any sense. I mean, there's no justice, you know. And in brief, I would say, and again, this is my opinion because there is different opinions about it, but this is a dictatorship, you know. There's no freedom of speech, freedom of thought, and etc.
Okay. And you know, a lot of these things we also see in, of course, in Congo Mirador, the village of Once Upon a Time in Venezuela. But was that also the intention with why you went to Congo Mirador? How did you end up in this little village in a faraway corner of Venezuela,
Yes, well, like many Venezuelan artists, we have been always for generations as well. We have been thinking on what are the implications of being a country that depends on oil production in the society, in the culture, and so on. And Maracaibo Lake, which is where Congo Mirador is, remember for the people. Well, you have all seen the film, so
Yeah.
from this from in this lake is from which we take our oil from. Since the times of the war, the Second World War, Venezuela had provided to the both the US and the Allies and the and even the Nazis. I mean, this is oil
Yeah.
for everybody since then. And and even though of course that meant a whole growth for the country, but the poverty as well had been kept for decades, and it's been structural and it's been really dramatic. So in the lake, it's possible to see this contrast straight away. You see the industry, and then you drive on a boat 40 minutes, and you are in these communities that are really neglected from the system. And this was kind of the first impulse that brought us there as a film crew. But back then, this was ages ago, 2008.
Okay.
And since then, we have been trying to develop these themes through, first we did a documentary for television, Televisión América Latina is called, that was back then 2008, 2009. And then we had the opportunity to participate in something that maybe you got to see, which is called the Y, there is the Y Foundation that is based in Denmark, and they have done several series. One of them was called White Poverty.
Yeah.
And we did a short within that series that was widespread in Europe and the world. And back then, we learned that this village was sedimentating or becoming a swamp because of the climate change, and as well, this gets more complicated with the pollution of this lake. This lake is, heavily polluted because of the oil industry. And so then when we saw that, the people were asking us, I mean, could you, do some filming about this and tell the world about this? So then that's how we began to work there. And of course, this village, as you saw, is like so much a unique place, so much a unique culture,
Yeah.
and it really brings you into a psychic space that we found it really fascinating. And was interesting as well to see that they were going through the same thing that we have been going through over the years, which is this division of the society because of polarization, and people being abused, being victims of abuse of power in different intensities, but essentially in the same situation of being abused. So we decided then to stay and work on that place for 5 years.
Just a very long time. How
I
many
think.
how many hours of footage did you shoot? Because you used 1.5 hours for your film.
No, we don't know. We don't know really. I mean, I can tell you that we have 2 teras. This I can tell you, but we shot in 4 different formats. And then to make this mathematic is just like we just never did it. We have never had the time to do that. Yeah. But we have 2 teras of footage.
So maybe we should focus on the 2 main characters of your film, which is Miss Tamara and the teacher. And what strikes me, or I think what everybody will notice is, and you touched upon it yourself, the polarization between these 2 characters. They like to talk a lot, themselves. They like to talk a lot. They all, they almost are screaming to each other. But the one thing that they're not doing is they're not listening to each other. They're not listening to what the other person has to say. And is that that polarization within this village, is that something you see in Venezuela and with your friends and family? Is that something you you witness in the rest of the country?
Oh yes, I mean the screaming is something very much inbreeded in the culture,
Yeah, yeah.
and and yeah, but yeah, no, had actually been uh, more and more radical over 20 years. Right now, I tell you, right now, these years in which the situation becomes more and more serious in terms of collapse, except from a small elite of people that is becoming super rich because the right now the system is that the economy is being liberated into cash dollars, and you see cash dollars everywhere. So, and there is an elite that is into that. Is a bit of a laundry situation, laundry of money situation. So
Yeah.
except from that area that is has this valve of escape, but in general people are in a very bad situation. So then the intensity of this polarization, I think it's been softened up because of the calamities, as simple as that. But in general, over the last 20 years, is becoming more radical. It has become more radical, this fact, and you can see it in the latest election of the parliament. It was so heavy, and people just don't believe in the system no more. Than the few ones, there is a small percentage that did vote in an election that is very much fraudulent. So these people that still vote are mainly through different ways of pressure, with the food, with few resources and so on. And in that specific area, you can see how damaging it is. Right now, the parliament is 100% pro-government. So
Supporting
that's
Maduro.
one of the yeah, man, yeah.
For me, there were two moments in the films that were very painful to watch. And it's, first of all, I think it's maybe the climax of the film, and it's Miss Tamara that goes to the governor of the province at the end of the film, and it's, she almost gets she gets ignored by the governor. She has this very reasonable things that she wants to say, but she gets ignored. And then the second thing that and was more subtle is the person from the representative from the government who comes to inspect the school, and she's picking out these pens, and she says, like, why did you not distribute them? And then she notices, well, oh, they never worked. And then the look on her face of the representative is very it's very telling, I think. And I was just wondering, do you think that these two people like the representative and Ms. Tamara, do you think that somewhere they know that the government is failing, that the people they are supposed to represent are failing?
Yes, still, I mean, more than to think that they're failing, what I think that the situation now, and in their cases, what is the thing that is more present is that these are the people that have the power of doing this or that. And in the case of the governor is the one that has the power of taking this dredging machine and making it happen and pay for it. You know what I mean? And he's as well the guy that has the contracts to do it. So then it's basically the guy that has the power. And in the case of this representative, in the way, for the experience that I have had in this process of making this film, you see clearly how it works, this ladder of power, and how people, when they are, even if you have this little bit of power, how you use it is an interesting thing to think about, and as you well pointed out in that moment when there is this representative and so on, and how it is interesting to see how when the common sense comes, that Natalie, who is the teacher, tells her, like, you know how this is working, I mean, you're just crushing us here, and if you put here some other people of the party, this is just gonna work, and you are gonna send the resources for this school. If here there was somebody from the government, you would send the resources for the school. She says she has it clear. She talks from the common sense, and the person on the little, this position of little power, but still a power, she's trying to be. She's playing for a team that is a team that is giving her the job, that is giving her that have the power of giving you a job, giving you some access to some resources. So then she's playing for herself and playing for this system because it's what is keeping her.
Yeah.
So then I think the primary thing, more than the morals, is a question of survival. And overall, when you are in a situation in which it's not that we are talking about power on things that are sophisticated. No, we're talking here about power on food, So, for instance, or very basic things, so things that give you your existence practically. I think it is more to do with survival. So then when Tamara goes to the governor, I do not think that she has faith in the ideals no more, honestly. But she's clear that this guy has the possibility. So, and I'm going to play this game and try to get this done. It's a profound sense of reality on who is who and who is in what position.
And with Ms. Tamara, there's maybe another thing in that, she believes in this almost mythical figure that is Hugo Chavez and that is Maduro. They're not just the leaders of the country, but it's some kind of Jesus or some kind of God that she worships them.
Yes. Still, I think there is a clarity that Chavez. I mean, he's called in the local talks. He's like the intergalactic. I mean, he's beyond now all this. He's a semi-god or something. But I think that she doesn't have the same. She places these leaders nowadays, even Maduro, in another level of and I think there is an awareness, that this that something are the ideals that they did have, and something else is the guys that are now in power. I think there is a common understanding on these differences. But with that, I got to say that me personally, I do not. I am critical to the ideals itself. I am critical to what, in concrete, Chavez did during the time in which he was the leader. And still, there is an important part of the society that is still have him as a mythical figure, and like the one that is beyond any good or bad, which is like very crazy, but tells a lot about the fanatism, the nature of fanatism.
Yeah. Maybe to steer away a bit from the politics, there's something else that's very profound in your film, and it's in the beginning, in the first part of your film, and it's the way these young girls are treated. You have the beauty pageant at the beginning of the film, but also this mother that's talking about her daughter of 13 that has become pregnant. Why was that so important for you to also show in your film?
Yes, just to tell you a little bit the story, the whole process that took 5 years began with the world of the kids. As I was more concentrated in seeing the society from that angle, from the world of the kids. And as a person, for me, it's been always a question on how to help and how to deal with the fact that girls in this kind of society and in these kind of situations are really vulnerable. And one of the things that happened in Venezuela right now is that because of the situation, girls have no access to contraception methods, for instance. And on the other hand, it is a society that is had sexualized, like, have taken girls as sexually active from the age they get their periods, yeah, and that they, even though you can be a kid, you can be 10 years old and you have already your period, and in the case of the film, we decided to stick to this story and to try to do some development about it, because from a non-rational perspective, I just thought that this was essential to live there, to make reference to that, to make understand that this girl that is receiving this kind of world that we are portraying there is vulnerable, is kind of condemned to a destiny that seems not to be, something you can get away from, and that this somehow, for this girl, for instance, to become like a Tamara, she really needs an enormous willpower. So for Tamara herself to become herself, she has had an enormous willpower to make of herself a businesswoman, and to deal with this society of fishermen that are really wild into being to get a leadership over them is not whatever. You have to become really ruthless, and that's what she did. So then for that girl to get away from that position of being the beauty queen and the girl that is already with a guy and pregnant at 14, you really need a clarity, a super willpower, and become an Amazonas practically. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting to put this as a question and as a something to provoke and to put attention into the world of the girls in this kind of societies. Yeah. I think it is not only in Venezuela, it is I think in the Latin American societies, maybe in the Caribbean societies, this is really common, I mean, Miss Venezuela was not coming from wherever, it came from this kind of society that really that has a place for women that is really clear, and it's like, okay, you're a beauty queen, and yeah, so that's why.
Because if you would just have shown Miss Tamara and the teacher, you would maybe, get the wrong idea, because maybe what Miss Tamara has become and the teacher in your film, they're not. This is not very common, I guess. They were actually maybe very lucky that they were very powerful to being in that place where they are in the film. And
yeah, I mean, on the other hand, Natalie, she has a daughter, not from such an early age, but she's a single mother with a supportive family. And right now, I mean, Seppe, the situation of Natalie right now, being a displaced person. She went to Colombia at some point, but came back to her place. And right now she's in a really, I am going to be brief about it, but I just want to tell you a story to give you a grasp on what means the situation for the most of there are more than 3 million refugees, Venezuelan refugees, going all over the world, mainly in Latin America and in the US, but as well 500,000 in Europe. Yeah, and the overall of the migrants are more than 5 million. I think I am being short with the numbers because the pronostics are 8 million for this year, 2021, and this is from the UN, this prediction. But going back to the situation of Natalie, her situation is this. She tried to become a teacher in another village, which she did, and because of the collapse of the country, together with the pandemic,
yeah.
The oil prices in this country right now are over $1 per liter. And in that area is over $3 per liter. What does it mean? That for a fisherman that is in a remote place and in that area between Colombia and Venezuela that is smuggling, that 1 liter of oil can cost even $10. Yeah, and in cash. I mean, this is wild. So for the school in which she was, there was no oil, and the mayor of that municipality was actually an oil smuggler, and he did have for him and his group, but not for the school. So then they decided to close the school. So Natalie, the teacher, she had to go with her daughter into the river Catatumbo, that is a river that is between Colombia and Venezuela, full of paramilitarism. And there she was looking for a job, and she met this guy. There is a guy that works as managing one of these one farm. In that river there are farms. They have cattle and so on, and this guy, and she meets this guy, and she decides to get together with this guy to get a job, basically. I mean, she did like the guy, I guess, but she as well needed the job, and she got a job there as a cook, and as well got pregnant. But why does she get pregnant? Because there is no way of getting contraceptive, and there's no even condoms, and they don't want to use condoms. I mean, here in this country, people don't like to use condoms. Stop. And and now she's pregnant, depending on this guy, with a daughter that is in an age in which she's gonna get really out of a school. Her girl is out of a school since a year. Well, most of the guys are because of the pandemic as well, but she is out of a school. So they are in a real vulnerable situation. And even the teacher, my friend, I mean, she is like going straight into this kind of destiny, this circle of poverty. So probably, I mean, we as a film team, this is another whole story. We are doing a whole job with the people of the university of the region to make a support system, at least for the people of the film. And with her, we are doing a work of, basically we are collecting money for her to make a little business, and she's gonna go out of it with support. But without support, it's really difficult to do it.
That's very beautiful cause with the film, and that's why it's so important that people watch the film. We have a couple more minutes left, and I want to ask you just with one of the last things that are being said in the film by the old man who narrates some of the things, and he says, and for that I will not forget you because my hope is to see you again. I think these are the last sentences of the film. And just I was wondering if I would come to Venezuela today and I would go to Congo Mirador, is there still a Congo Mirador, or has it all disappeared?
There is a canal. where there was a lagoon, there is a canal, because the rest is mostly soil right now. There are 4 people, adult people. 2 of them are the mother and father of Natalie. Her father doesn't want to live because he's hanging to this canal like his life, because it's a canal that allows you to go to the main Lago de Maracaibo to continue fishing. But these are very adult, like these old people being there. So then there is still a Congo Mirador. They are not in a good shape, I would say. But when I speak to Natalie and I ask her, is there a way of recovering this? And does it worth it? You think it worth to really try to do something about it? And then she says that yes. She says that it's been so hard. I mean, we know, maybe you particularly not, but migrating in each level is so hard that she says to me that the people of Congo would come back because we can just try to change our way of living, and what they would need are systems, no, like sewage systems and so on. And I guess I would need some people from, places like Amsterdam or somewhere like that, like some people to do some consultancy on how to make to do your life in places that are impossible and that you just like through enormous will create the conditions so then this place still exists. And so then, there is a little left, like, like this last canal there, that is like the last hope. Yeah.
And Miss Tamara, how is she now? And has she seen the film?
Yes, she had seen it, and both Natalie and most of the people there, they have seen it, but with the internet of that right now had allowed us to make this conversation, but to run the film, to run Netflix or so on, is not so, and there is not so good. So their perception is difficult for me to say, because first of all, I was not there still. So what we are doing now, during the month of April, we are going to be showing the film in open spaces wherever we are allowed, and in that estate, in Zulia Estate is called, in that side of the country, we are to show it in a beautiful cinema that is called Baral Theater. Is the theater in which the first films were shown in this country in the beginning of the cinema era. Okay. And we are bringing them, and everything with the support of IDFA, I got to say. IDFA had, we did apply for this distribution fund, and we got it. And thanks to that, we are able to make these kind of projections that are for free in the country, including that place. And we're going to bring them to that theater and to make a conversation. And yeah, I'm going to record it. Many people ask me, like, please record it, and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I'm really curious on how they will react. So thank you so much, Anabel, for making this beautiful film and making the time to talk to us. I'm convinced that people at home will have enjoyed it very much and will have, there are also a lot of funny moments in the film, I think. So I think they will have laughed, but also will maybe felt sad afterwards. So thank you so much for making time to talk to us. And I hope you will be able to come to Belgium one time to talk about your film in real life.
Yes, thank you. Invite me and I go.
Yeah. Definitely.